All right, what's good, YouTube? It's Defcon TCG, and I'm here with a perfect order GLC tier list. So as you can see, I have a billion tabs open up here, and they're all just going to be different GLC lists. I have a bunch of the GLC decks down here, and I'm just going to kind of go over what I think is good. And yeah, what is this report? Okay, just leave that there. So we'll just start off the list going into a deck I don't have a tier list for, but it's this double attack grass deck. Now, these decks are with Pokepad and with perfect order in mind, so there hasn't been any real crazy innovations yet that I've seen, so we're kind of just playing without any knowledge of like the 3K that's going to happen. So if someone comes up with a crazy deck for the 3K, we can eventually add it to this tier list as well. So starting off down here, I'm going to put this spin back double attack grass deck in the not great tier. It requires a lot of setup, and I don't think you can get it to very consistently. But it's cool when it goes off. I think it's a neat GLC deck to kind of introduce someone to the format. All right, so let's go with a random one. So we're gonna go with Dark Aggro. It's gonna look something like this. And I think this deck actually does have a lot of merit. I think that if we see something today, like I know I saw on Twitter, that Mahone was saying that he might do some psychic hits. So this will definitely reintroduce Dark into the format to be a little bit better. Obviously, you think that Dark beats Psychic, which it might, but the fact that this deck is very slow and it's inconsistent is definitely going to hurt it a lot when it used to be one of the better GLC decks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this bad boy over here, and I'm going to put this deck in a solid. I think it's not terrible. Would I take it to the 3K? Probably not. I think with fighting being so good right now, it's going to be tough, and I think even like you're probably not even favored into the blindside deck, or even like the other opposing ability lock. If that deck gets like End plus Garbodor, I mean every deck if it's End Garbodor probably just loses, but like this deck specifically just doesn't build a lot of advantage throughout the game, and it has a tough time thinning its deck, so we're gonna throw it right there. Next we'll go with here. So we have the Spread Fire deck. Now this deck's actually a lot better than I thought it was initially. I think it is a little goofy looking, and it is pretty fragile from my experience playing against it, but I think if a good pilot grabs this deck, then you're able to pull off a lot of nasty combos. The Blaziken that allows you to hit into 2 Pokemon is really good, so you get to kill your opponent's active and then do 121 of the bench Pokemon. This card's very solid. You pair that with this Emboar that lets you just attach as many fire energies as you want per turn. Like, this combination is super crazy. It's pretty tough to kill Pokemon that are 170 HP in this format, unless you're like Iron Boulder or like Okidogi with a modifier. And then obviously there's Heatmore too, so this deck has a lot of bench snipe that allows you to kind of tear apart your opponent's board. Again, with this deck, I don't know if it's tier 1 good. I don't know if it's tier 2 good, but I actually do think it's better than Dark. So I'm going to put it here for now. I could maybe see this going here, but I think we're going to throw it right there for now. All right, let's see what's next. Let's go with Basic Dragons. Now, Basic Dragons actually did get a big buff in this set. You do have the addition of Pokepad plus Rayquaza, so it's going to allow you to have that additional Pokemon search, plus another pretty good basic attacker for like a turn 1 attack. It allows you to get Donks off. I was about to say, I didn't see the Raging Bolt for a second. I was there's no, this guy's not playing Raging Bolt. But I just kind of pulled up like one of the first lists or two that I saw from Cardboard Warriors, but I like this list. It's pretty close to what I was testing. And this Draconium Z card is pretty good also, and a lot of people were testing that card. It allows you to pretty much one-shot anything in the format. It's a great closer for this deck because this deck does accelerate at doing like a good amount of damage, but it does struggle against like very bulky Pokemon. So let's see, where do I want to put the Basic Dragon deck? I think for Basic Dragons, I'm going to throw it into good, but I could see an argument for this to go up also. Let's see what's next. All right, so we got good old RDT. So I think the surprise factor of RDT made it very good for that first full grip. I think that people just weren't ready to combat like the speed of Solrock and Lunatone. I think this is probably still going to be the most played deck for the event. It's very simple, it's strong, and it's one of those decks that, you know, you're not going to have a headache at the end of the day from playing. And it's probably still one of the better decks in the game. It's probably a top 5 deck. So I'm going to throw RDT probably into very good right up here. So with this deck, you still have like all the good stuff. You have Okie Dogi. I mean, Ting Blue, I think, has diminishing returns now that people know about it. You are going to, I think, have less opportunity. I think most people are going to be slotting in their bench barrier Pokemon. So something like Water can play Manaphy, Grass can play Shaman, Psychic can play a couple different Pokemon. Fighting can also play Machoke that allows you to not take any bench damage. So I think that there will probably still be like 1 or 2 RDT in top 8 just because it's going to be the most played deck. But I would be very surprised if RDT won the event. So yeah, I'll put it right here in very good for now. I could honestly see it being around the same power level as Dragon. Especially if they're piloted by players of like equal skill. I think this is a toss-up by how good each of them are. All right, what's next? We'll go for Trash. This is Garbodor. This is the Trash Line deck. It's not a Trash deck. This deck's called Trash Line. I think this deck's very strong. So, what is a true Pokemon combo that never fails? And that would be an N plus a Garbodor. And you put your opponent to 1 card. You item lock them. You ability lock them, or you use one of these big beaters to knock out their best Pokemon, and it's looking pretty rough for your opponent. This deck is definitely going to rely on those comeback mechanics that most decks don't have in GLC. A lot of decks, if you fall too far behind, the game is just kind of over. But this deck gets a little bit more consistent with the telepathy energy, which I think the second mind energy is supposed to be. And yeah, without a lot of, this deck has not a lot of like expensive attackers to power up. The only ones are like the Mewtwo and the Necrozma, but at least Mewtwo can power itself up. And then Necrozma works well with the special energies to be doing a lot of damage. I think that there should probably still be a Natu here, the 40 HP one. I think you can still maybe get some nasty combos off by chipping your opponent down with Frillish and then like ending the game with like Natu's regular attack. I think that could be pretty funny, especially if you're playing the Fighting Fury Belt. You can make it do 20, so I mean that could be kind of cool. But I think this deck's very good. I think this deck is definitely a tier 1 deck in this format, so I'm gonna throw it up to like here. I think it's slightly better than RDT just because it doesn't have those comeback mechanics. I guess the only problem with this deck is if you prefer aggression, you're probably going to be more in the RDT camp than like the Psylocke deck. So I think this deck's a very good play for the event. If, you know, my whole deck got banned tomorrow, I'd probably end up playing this. Do I have 2 turbo? I have 2 turbo dragons here. We're just going to ignore that. Oh, I have two bulky grasses too. Okay, well, we're just going to ignore those. Let's see, what is next? We'll go for Colorless Control. So I think Control is a very strong archetype in GLC just because a lot of players that play GLC, I don't want to say a lot, I want to say like a chunk of the GLC players are like more casual, like they play this and not like a lot of standard. So them playing against Control decks isn't something very common. So a lot of those players can fall into the trap of like losing to one of Control's win conditions, whether it be like infinite, you know, advantage or mill, because this is like a Bryson Velvet deck. So this card says your opponent just mills 3. And then if you discard 3 cards, your opponent has to discard until they have 3 bench Pokemon, which I don't really know if you're collecting enough cards in this deck in your hand to be able to do that. Maybe towards the late game, if you're able to set up like the Pidgeotto and the Cinccino, and you're getting the Ursaluna loop off. So yeah, I played against one of these at Good Games the other day, and the matchup's very scary. I think you have to have a lot of experience into Control decks, like just from playing like other Pokemon, like older formats, or in just any kind of formats where Control is a good deck. Otherwise, you can definitely fall into all of the random win cons this deck has, like Infinite Pokédoll, or like Counter Catcher locks with the Galar Mine. And this deck can randomly take KOs on you too, because the Ursaluna can do 200 damage and it just discards an energy from it. So what you can do is you can use that to grab back, you know, use the triple acceleration energy to knock out one of your opponent's guys, put in the Lost Zone, put a Luckscape on this thing so it's a billion HP, and then the next turn you put a Recycle energy on it, use its attack, get 2 of things back, and you can get back the triple acceleration energy. So every other turn you're just getting a knockout. So like this deck can still take prizes, which is the scary part. A lot of the times normal decks or Control decks can't do that. But this deck also does have that very aggressive mode that can do. And actually, I'm very high on this deck. I think this deck is very good. So where is my Colorless Control? I would actually put Colorless Control like here. I think this is a very strong play for the event. I guess the only downside is it is for like the full grip 3K ride. It's best of 140 minutes. So if you're confident that you can play a game of Control in that amount of time, I think this is a very good play for the event. There's a lot of ways you can get your opponent locked out of the game with this deck. This deck's very solid. All right, let's go to the next. Let's just do the other normal deck. We'll go with Hopp's Colorless. So Hopp's Colorless is a very aggressive deck, and I think that Fan Rotom is the best turn 1 Pokemon in the game. As soon as you put it down, it gets you a +3. So being able to net 3 more cards from this card is absolutely ridiculous. And it's one of the best early game attackers. You pair it with Jet Energy, which for some reason this list doesn't play. Definitely play Jet Energy in your colorless decks. It helps you attack with the Snorlax once it's asleep. It's a pivot. Like, yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to play that card. But this card is ridiculous. Also, they're not playing Welder with 3 Fire. There's a couple things that changed about this list. But regardless, Colorless does have a couple cool toys. I think after like the not too blindside stuff became more popular, we're looking for more of these Pokemon that have the ancient trait that allow you to take an additional prize. So the Swellow does 50 damage, but if you pair it with something like a Technical Machine Crisis Punch, you can use it to mount a comeback against your opponent, because you're gonna be able to do 270 damage, or is it 80? 280 damage to your opponent's active by playing the triple colorless energy. Was this deck not play the triple colorless energy either? Okay, there should definitely be an ignition energy in here somewhere, just to be able to get that off for 1 attack. I feel like also it's just not bad with the double either. Just being able to do 80 for 1 energy. Like, you could probably win games with that. This should probably be a triple energy in here somewhere. Okay, see, like, they added a lot of... I would definitely play Ignition. Ignition seems very, very good in this deck. But I think Hopp's Colorless is pretty good. I would probably put it somewhere around the Power of Dragon. If I had to pick one of these decks, I'd probably pick Hopp's Colorless, just because the attacker is a little bit more consistent, and also you do have access to something like Barbaracle. This one's not playing Cinccino, but you also do have access to Cinccino as a consistency card. Dodrio is a consistency card, and you have Double to get those gust effects off. Also, this list is also playing a Hopp's Bag and a Postwick, so it's playing a lot of modifiers to be able to KO big stuff. So like your Hopp's Snorlax can go 140, then 170 with the ability. Excuse me. And then 200 with the Stadium and 230 with the Band. Be able to kill a lot of stuff in the format. You're just shy of killing Whale, which kind of sucks, but, you know, just chip it down with something else, you'd be alright. But yeah, I think Hopp's Colorless is a pretty solid play for the event. I think it's about right here in power. Alright, let's see. We got Hydro Pump. So I think Hydro Pump is a very good deck. There's always one in top 8 of Full Grip, and the deck is just consistent. You have really strong support mons. Like Inteleon is probably the best stage 2 in the format. If not, it's top 5 or top 3. Like, this card's absurd. You have to search your deck for any 2 trainers you want. Also with a good attack. Helps you, like, take multi-prize turns. I do like the addition of, like, an Articuno in this deck, or even, like, a Cryogonal to be able to slow your opponent down, to be able to get a good setup. But, yeah, the Rough Seas is very good to be able to, like, counteract your opponent's Tinglu, or if your opponent's playing a Psychic deck and they want to do a bunch of funny stuff, that's also good for that as well. So I think this deck's in a pretty good spot. Like, you have, yeah, the Reversal Energy plus the Splash to be able to reuse Wailord. The Reversal can also be used to attack with, like, Baxcalibur or the Inteleon if you need it. And, yeah, just being able to have those 1 energy attachments to be able to take a knockout if your opponent, like, knocked out your Baxcalibur or your Frostmoth is also pretty good. Ooh, sorry, I'm yawning up a storm. I am recording this right before bed, so I want to minimize those yawns for you guys. But yeah, I think Hydro Pump is very good. I'm going to throw it up probably like here. So I think if I were to play a deck to Full Grip and I wasn't allowed to play my normal deck, I would probably have Hydro Pump here. But I feel like, as far as representation, RDT is probably going to have a slightly better result just because more people are going to play it. I do think Hydro Pump is like a deck to win the event. I don't know if RDT is a deck to win the event. But I believe a lot in Hydro Pump. Go to Fairy Control. So I think Fairy Control is actually a pretty good deck. I think that if you have infinite time, you're able to play this deck perfectly. It's very good. I think it's just tough to win with this deck in a best of one, because it does take a while to win, and no opponent is ever gonna like concede immediately if they see you play this, because the deck is kind of inconsistent, and a lot of the aggro decks can kind of just run you down because a lot of your Pokemon don't have a lot of health. Like if you look 60, 30, 60, 40, 70, this is 120, this is a stage 2, 70, 70, 60, I think this is 90. 90, yep. And then Xerneas is 130. So, I mean, it's like kind of beefy, but not really. So, I mean, you're not even able to use a second attack to take prizes. This is like solely a control deck. And I think it's significantly worse than like a colorless control, because colorless control can take prizes while also being a control deck. And yeah, so Florges has that ability once where you can flip a coin. If heads, put an item card from your discard pile on the top of your deck, and then you're going to draw it with a Slurpuff. So there's like a 50-50 every turn that your deck even works. So I'm not very high in this deck. I'm going to put this deck into like Boo Boo underneath like Spin Back. And yeah, I would just not play this deck. I think this deck is pretty not great, to be honest. All right, well, let's go over to the other fighting deck. We have GOGI Turbo, and this is an original of mine. I think this deck is very good. I think the list leads probably a little bit more work, but I do think this deck is a contender for a tier 1 deck. I think that if you want to play like a fighting deck with a little bit more options and a little bit of a higher damage ceiling, this is also a good option. This deck is kind of just like an Okie Dokie Turbo deck that can also use the Hariyama in the late game to be able to take like massive knockouts against something like Wailord or like opposing caped Pokemon that have a ton of HP, because with the Hariyama it does 210 base, and you compare that with the Premium Power Pro, the Muscle Band, the Strong Energy, to be able to hit those additional modifiers to be able to KO some of those heftier Pokemon that are in the format. So, I mean, if you combine all three of those things, what, you get 210, 240, 270, 290. So you can kill some pretty fat things. And it's not super out of the realm possibility to get to it right. Guzmahala gets you Muscle Band and the Strong Energy. So even if you just have that right, that's 250. That knocks out Wailord, which is usually the biggest thing you have to deal with, and some random caped Pokemon that could also be good to just knock out in one hit. So I'm going to put GOGI like here. I think I would play this deck before Colorless, but I think a good control player would probably choose to play like that before playing GOGI. But I think like GOGI is probably somewhere around here. But with the current list that I have, I think it could be improved upon. And I think with a perfect 60, this deck moves up a tier. But I think for now, I'd be comfortable leaving it here. Like, if I played this deck into Full Grip, I'm pretty confident I could get to a top 8. But could I win the event with it? I'm not sure. So I'm going to leave it here for now and just move on to the next one. So let's go with Lost Zone. So Lost Zone Psychic is a very, very good deck. I think as long as your Sableye does not get Lost Zone, this deck is pretty absurd. So if your opponent doesn't have a Lost City in their list and you're able to just put 12 damage counters on the board every turn, this deck can get out of hand pretty quickly. So you have some cool stuff. You have like the Horror Psychic Energy to be able to get 2 extra damage counters into play every turn. You have the Echoing Horn to be able to bring back some of your opponent's bench Pokemon to be able to knock them out again. And this card can kind of steal games. You have now the addition of Pokepad as a little bit more consistency to be able to do your combos. And you have Mewtwo to be able to reuse Colress's Experiment. And then you have Bayonet to reuse Colress's Experiment. You have Meowstic to search Colress's Experiment. So being able to get to 10 isn't that crazy, especially when you have some of the other older expanded cards like Lost Blender. Now you have Lost Vacuum. And yeah, you have a lot of ways of getting stuff into the Lost Zone with the, with Flower Selecting, plus Lost Blender, plus Lost Vacuum, plus Colress, you can get 5 in the Lost Zone turn 1, which is pretty crazy. And I think with a good pilot, this deck is very good. I guess the only down thing is you are playing GLC, so every time that you use Gumpy, you're just losing a card forever. And you have to be very smart with your Lost Zone decisions. So If you're someone that has a lot of Lost Zone experience, I think this deck is very good as well. So if I were to take this deck, I would probably throw it somewhere up here. I think it's probably slightly worse than these decks, just because these decks have a little bit more option and a little bit more aggressiveness in the early game. But I still think Lost Zone is a pretty solid deck for the event. I wouldn't be mad at someone if they told me, like, oh yeah, I'm going to play Lost Zone. I'd be like, all right, good luck. Hopefully your comfies are nice to you. Otherwise, you might be having a bad day. All right. We'll go for Bulky Grass next. I think there's a couple different iterations of this deck that have been going around. There's like the Meganium with the, it's like something ripening herb. Yeah, quick ripening herb. This card was played in standard a couple of years ago. This card's pretty solid. Just allows you to cheat a stage 2 into play. And I know like there's that one and then like the other newer Meganium. Both are pretty solid. I think it depends on what your deck wants to do. I guess this one's playing Jungle Totem, so you can Meganium into Venusaur. So, I mean, that's pretty cool as well. I do like the option of having the Rillaboom and the Venusaur and a Meganium. This build's pretty cool. I do like the Lucamine to be able to get back Force of Vitality, to be able to do more combo turns. The Dawn is also a very good addition to this deck, to be able to just search a whole Evolution line and then Force of Vitality it out. You also have some really good themed grass cards. Revitalizer is just a double Night Stretcher. You have Netball to be able to get you, it's just, you know, Fighting Gong for grass. Turffield Stadium gets you a stage 1, so if you're getting item locked by the opposing deck, it's something that can help you break that. Because Turffield usually grabs Grottle, and then Grottle just kind of unlocks your whole deck. I don't see a Roserade in this deck, which I don't agree with. There should definitely be a Roserade here somewhere. That card's absurd. There's also no Scoop Up Net, so that's definitely 2 additions I would probably throw into this deck immediately. I just noticed that, so... But yeah, you have a lot of good options with this deck. I don't think this Meowscarada card is very good. I'd probably just cut this whole line for, like, a Shining Genesect, a... What was the card I just said? Shining Genesect, whatever card I just said. Rewind the video 20 seconds, and then... Oh, Roserade, and then Scoop Up Net, and then I'd find another cut for, like, a Shining Genesect. I know Shining Genesect's a little bit power corrupt now. It doesn't do as much damage as before. I mean, maybe this Tapu Bulu is pretty good. I haven't tried this guy, but 220 is pretty good just to kind of end the game with. Was this deck playing any modifiers? No modifiers to do extra damage, so nothing to kill Whale in one hit, but maybe you can find an excuse for like a Professor Kukui. That'd be kind of neat. But I think this deck is solid. Is it a tier 1 deck? Probably not. I'd probably throw it like here. I think it's a fine deck. Are you going to make top 8 if you play Bulky Grass? I would probably bet against it, but could you win with it? Absolutely. I think you could win a badge with it for sure. Could you make it to a win in it for top 8? Potentially. Are you going to win the win in? I hope you do, man. Hey, if there's Bulky Grass in top 8 of full grip, I think that'd be sick. I think that deck's super fun, but I think that the deck is just, it's fine. It's okay. It's solid. It's like better than the fine decks. We're going to get to a fine deck in a second. Okay, well, I guess I didn't pull up a Lightning list, but I'm gonna put Lightning in fine. I think that Lightning kind of suffers from the problems of not having a lot of good pivots, aside from the Tapu Koko promo. And also, fighting is just so good right now, and you're not really able to compete with the speed of it because you kind of need the turns to set up. But while a deck like Psychic, you can get away with it because it has all the broken cards in it, Lightning doesn't really have as many broken cards. And now with like Natu being as prevalent, more people are playing more bench barrier cards, so that's just gonna make this deck a lot worse. I'm just gonna leave it here. There's not really a lot to talk about here. I also have Grass Control here. I think Grass Control is pretty good too. I would probably throw it like the top of Solid or the bottom of Good. This is kind of one of those other decks that kind of has the same problem as like it has the same problems as Colorless Control, but Colorless Control can take prizes a lot faster, and I think it reaches win condition a little bit faster. But you all just also have a lot of games that are non-games because of Vileplume. So this deck's a little bit more sacky. So I mean, like if you're just drawing really, really good, it's probably like up here somewhere. But I would say if you're drawing average all day, it's probably like somewhere around here. I know that there was either one that like lost her win for top 8 for the last full grip, and definitely would have been a scary matchup for me. Not something I want to hit, but I'm going to leave him there. And then we have good metal stuff. I I think I actually did pull out a good metal list. Yeah, so this is good metal. I think this deck has a lot of potential. I know one made top 8 the last full grip. Was it a fluke? Not sure. I think whoever played it probably just played really well all day, and they were able to kind of capitalize on people not knowing all the cards in metal, because it's not a very popular type. With someone who's like a really good metal player, it's probably like somewhere up here. But I think like the average metal player will probably play it to like a here. Like I'd probably say it's like a solid deck. I don't think I would play metal over like Turbo Dark, just because there's a lot of additions that Turbo Dark has that like metal just doesn't have access to. Like sure, metal has access to a couple cool things. You have Arch Aladon, that's like an auto win versus normal dragon, this is pretty cool. And then you have the very bulky Zamazenta that's able to do a lot of damage. You have this Iron Crown that is able to do 120 for 2 energy, so that's a pretty good amount of damage for early in the game. You can get that off pretty quickly. And then you have Revroom to be able to use as a draw engine, and you have Bronzong as energy acceleration. And then what does this Heatran do? If it I think I like the other one better. The other one like burns you if you hit them, and it does a lot more damage. But I mean, maybe there's some merit to playing this one. I haven't seen this one played before. I usually see the other Heatran, the one that kind of just nukes something as like a game ender. So yeah, I don't know. I probably wouldn't play this one, but I think metal's definitely got some merit to it, and it's like a solid deck. I think it's either solid or fine. I think if you're really dedicated to playing metal, it could be up here. Obviously, player skill has a lot more influence on a deck than I think like the actual deck for me. Like, could a really good player take Fairy Control and like win full grip? Absolutely. Do I think a really good player is more likely to win full grip with like Hydro Pump? Absolutely. So, you know, it is what it is. And we'll go to Low Tide over here. I think this is a sick name for this deck. Low Tide, just very, you know, whatever. I hate the term, but low to the ground psychic deck. I feel like that term is just so like we need new terms. I feel like it's just, I hate hearing the term heads up play too. I don't know about you guys. If no one ever said the term heads up play again, I would be so happy with my life. I just hate that term. I don't know why. And I've used it before. Like, I'm guilty of it also. But like, also, we could try new stuff. Come on, we could do it. But anyway, this deck's solid. I think that the speed and consistency this deck has is pretty good. I would maybe like a little bit more options as far as like attackers go. Obviously, we have Octillery for consistency, and we have Inteleon. This one plays quick shooting. I still maybe would opt for the Shady Dealings just because it's going to add a lot more versatility to our deck, and it's going to allow us to be a little more consistent throughout the game. Also, it can search for combo pieces. This guy's playing Apricorn Maker and Ball Guy. This is the guy I played in the finals. This list is crazy. I like it. He's got some cool stuff in here. I think this list could probably be improved on a little bit. I know I see like the vision with the Greninja plus Inteleon to be able to kind of snipe stuff to get extra prizes, but I think the hit to consistency isn't worth the Inteleon, considering this card's attack is pretty mid too, just 70 for 2. Oh man, that attack sucks. So I'd rather have the 120 and 20 so I can, you know, pair that with Greninja to be able to just take that extra damage on the board and maybe do something a little bit more crazy with it. I mean, just using this Greninja, discard energy, do 3, and then doing like 120 plus 30 snipe lets me kill a 50 HP Pokemon, and there is like a good chunk of them in the format still, even with everyone kind of playing like higher HP Pokemon to avoid, you know, getting knocked out by like Soul Rock and stuff. Like the 50 HP Pokemon just exist because sometimes that's like the optimal one, or sometimes that's just like the only one that exists. So yeah, I think this deck is solid. I'm a little bit less high on this deck than I think other people are. Like, I would probably put this deck like the bottom of good. Like if I consider very good like tier 1, I think good is somewhere between like tier 1.5, and then solid is like tier 2, and then fine is like tier 3. Boo Boo is probably also encapsulates tier 3. They're just like, I think Lightning Spread's like slightly better than these decks. But I don't know, Fairy Control probably has a better chance of like winning a tournament than Lightning Spread. Actually, I'm going to switch these up. I think Fairy Control is like slightly better than these decks. I think this deck could also probably be here if it's like a good pilot that like draws well. So I feel like these are kind of interchangeable based on your opinion, but come on, we know what the best deck is, and it's going to be the Psychic deck. This is the list I had from Full Grip, and there's definitely some changes that I made recently. I know that I uploaded that video that has the changes that I made, so if you want to go check out that video, it's there, or, hold on, I'll just pause it. And here's my face on top of my other face, but this, why is this so blurry? Twitter, what are you doing to me, bro? Alright, well, this is super blurry, but you can go check out that video. There's a couple different additions, and I'm going to definitely change it up a little bit for Full Grip as well. There's a couple other cards I want to try, as well as the Telepathy Energy, just giving you another consistency card to be able to get your guys down even faster, because that's really the only way Psychic loses, is if that you don't have all of those combo pieces, or you're not able to set up in the early game. But this deck has so many good consistency cards. Xatu's absolutely broken. It's an energy accelerator that also draws you cards. Nothing else in the format has something like that. It's absolutely broken. Everything that has something like that is a supporter. Xatu's just, you do it every turn, man. This card's so absurdly good. And you have Shining Arcana Gardevoir to be able to net you some additional cards in the hand. It can also flip energy off the top of your deck if you get super lucky and be able to get extra energy attachments onto the board. You still have the Giratina plus Natu plus Blindside combo to be able to take extra prizes. You still have Broken Blacephalon to be able to take multiple prize card turns. And you have Iron Boulder. It's just a very thick Pokemon that does a lot of damage. 170 on a basic is absurd. And this deck still has all the tricks that it has before. And it's only going to get better with Telepathy Energy. And yeah, this is, as you can see, that I left it right there. BDIF. I don't even think it's really close. I think if, you know, if this is BDIF 10 out of 10, Psylocke, like, probably comes in at, like, a 9. RDT's like an 8.75. Hydro Pump's like an 8.75. Colors Control's like an 8.5. I think the power gap between these two decks, between this deck and like every other deck, is pretty big. And I'm gonna be playing this to Full Grip again. Like, there's no reason not to. It's the best deck. It's been the best deck. It's going to be the best deck. And I'm hoping some of the future sets kind of shake up GLC. Otherwise, we're gonna see Psychic be the GOAT for a while. But also, I know Mahone said he wanted to potentially ban Natu or D-Valley. I think if Natu goes, it's really not the end of the world for Psychic. I think that you could literally just play this 60. Cut Strange Timepiece. Cut... What's the other card? Blindside. Cut Blindside. Cut Natu for just another Natu. Cut Strange Timepiece. And that Strange Timepiece. And then just throw, like, a Frillish, a Fighting Fury Belt, cut the Zacian, and then like throw another supporter or another Stadium in here, maybe another supporter, and then like Telepathy Energy and like call it a day. The deck doesn't really change that much. I don't think it really even loses that much power. So yeah, that's gonna be my Psychic GLC list, or my Psychic GLC list, my GLC tier list for Perfect Order. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. If there's anything you disagree with, let me know. If you have a different opinion, if you want to maybe hear me explain more about a certain deck and where I have them placed, let me know. Appreciate you watching and have a good rest of your day. Peace.